Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another live edition here on Chalk Talk tonight. I'm excited to break down the quarterfinal games. We'll recap some of the opening round games. And if you look at the attire today, I got the Shador Sanders jersey on, and I got the Coach Prime glasses on. So I'm in my Dion sunglasses. My mom and dad, everybody said now all I need is the gold chain. Maybe I'll get the Prime chain, but I'm supporting Prime tonight in Colorado. So I'm on. You guys know you've been following the show. I've been on the Prime bandwagon since you got the job there. So I had to support the gear tonight. So if you're following me on any of the social media channels, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, tonight is the first time I am live on TikTok as we speak. So for anybody listening on those channels, you got any questions or comments, just put them down in the comment box. I'll be sure to try to answer as many questions as I can. It'll be up on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you listen to your podcast. It's available. So make sure to tune in to Chalk Talk here on the Rock Pile. So without further ado, I want to just touch briefly and see what everybody's thoughts were on the opening round games. Now, I was one that I said I don't think that college football should do the conference championships. I think they should wipe it. I don't think they should play the conference championship games. I think they should do away with the automatic qualifiers. I think when college football, the regular season is done, I think the committee picks the 12 best teams. I think they just seed them and go, okay, 1 through 12, see where they stand. Enough of these automatic qualifiers because people are going to say, well, Clemson won the ACC. They didn't belong in. South Carolina should have got in. Well, South Carolina had some bad losses. They were the hot team at the right time at the end of the year. Ole Miss, who Lane Kiffin was tweeting all over the place, and I'm a big Lane fan, but they laid it 8 to Kentucky. Alabama, you lost a 6-6 Oklahoma and got destroyed, and you got embarrassed. So I get the arguments, and of course, people are going to say after watching those games, well, Clemson didn't belong. Indiana didn't belong in there. SMU didn't belong in there. You know what? They probably didn't. I thought most of the season SMU was one of the best teams in the country. Now, they looked horrendous against Penn State. Now, listen, credit Penn State. They had the 2 interceptions, the 2 pick sixes. They got on the board early, and that defense never looked back. And I think James Franklin, I mean, the knock on Franklin and Ryan Day is they can't win the big game. Now we know for Ryan Day, the game is the Michigan game, which he's 0-4. And I think it's funny now when you get on Twitter and you follow all the Buckeye fans, and I follow a lot of them, and I comment on a lot of them, and we go back and forth. Is they say, well, we got a chance to win the national championship, and then that game people forget about it. No, they don't. That's the problem with people in Columbus. They can go on and win the national championship. You still didn't win the game. I know people will say, well, we won the national championship. What bowl game are you playing in? I don't care. Michigan's going to go get killed, Alabama, because half of Michigan's team is going to be a first round pick in the NFL draft. Nobody's playing for Michigan. These bowl games don't mean a damn thing anymore. And I think it's a shame because I love the bowl games, always have since I was a kid. I haven't watched many of the bowl games. I watch the playoff games. I'll watch the playoff games next week, of course. But I don't know if I want, like, look at the Syracuse game. And I'm not this isn't a knock on Syracuse. Fran Brown and Syracuse had a fantastic year. They're like an 18-point favorite to Washington State because the Washington State coach got the head job at Wake. The entire coaching staff's going with them. Half the team transferred. So they had to have a call with the bowl committee to say, is Washington State even have enough guys to play against Syracuse? And the coach said, we're going to play. We're not going to penalize the guys that are still here. We're going to play. It's a great opportunity for the coach, interim coach, the coach, right? He's going to be an acting head coach. And Syracuse is going to go beat a JV team by 30. Great job. You won a bowl game. You won 10 games. Great to go into the offseason, spring football with 10-win season and a bowl game. Is it really that great to go beat a team that the entire team left? I don't know. But I think, and again, that's not a knock on Syracuse. That's a knock on all these bowl games because half these players opted out. So it's like, okay, Michigan's going to get destroyed by Alabama. The entire defensive front opted out. Donovan Edwards, the Don opted out. Like they have nobody. Like they barely could score any points during the season, and now you got to ask them to go beat Alabama, who's probably pissed off because they probably should have gotten a playoff. So I'm not going to knock those teams, but these bowl games, for some reason, I think every year, even for the college football fans like myself who love watching college football, I don't know if I want to see a four-string quarterback play that hasn't taken a snap all year. I think they're great stories, and it's a great opportunity for kids to make a name for themselves. I mean, listen, Miller Moss for USC last year in the bowl game, I think threw 3 or 4 touchdowns. Well, he came into the season as a starting quarterback for USC. Now he's leaving again. So I think it's a good opportunity for the kids. I think they got to do something with the NIL, and I could spend a whole show talking about the NIL. Maybe I will when the college football season's over. But it's so much easier now to go build a program with the NIL in the portal. What I find fascinating is I think like I go into the Wake Forest thing with Dave Clawson, who stepped down and mainly part of this NIL. Wake Forest didn't have the money. Now all of a sudden, like you see the school say, "Well, we're investing," and now Wake's got more money than they ever had. Well, why the hell didn't you invest in the money before? Why do you wait for a coach to step down? And Jimmy Larinaga, the coach at Miami for basketball, who took George Mason to the Final Four, took Miami to the Final Four, stepped down today, 8 games into the season, and said, "I don't want to coach anymore because of the NIL." And I don't blame him. It's not, college sports are not what they used to be years ago. Take Deion Sanders. Now look at Mike Vick, who got the head job at Norfolk State. You see Deshaun Jackson just got the job, I think, at what, Delaware State or something like that. And now these guys can go into any program in the country and win in year one because of the transfer portal. And I still think Deion got, with the glam, the market and stuff, he got players and it was only going to take time. And I still think he stays again at Colorado. I don't think he's going to the NFL. I hope he doesn't go to the NFL. College football is better with Deion in it. I mean, how many people watch Colorado? Colorado's been on prime time just about every Saturday. I mean, I'm sitting here in prime glasses in a Shedeur Sanders jersey, wearing a Colorado jersey, being a Michigan fan. So what's that tell you? But I think nowadays with the portal, you can go in and win year one. Years ago, the old way to do it, the Dave Clawson, how he did it, was recruit and develop players. Maybe you struggle your first 2 years, but by year 3, year 4, maybe you win 8 games, then you win 10 games, then you win 12 games. And in his case, was in the top 10 and won 7 bowl games. You can't do that anymore because now you got to make sure that you're recruiting and you got a team, you got a general manager with all eyes on everything. So it's so much different now. So I look at these 4 games from last week. Ohio State put a shellacking on Tennessee. And I told you, and I know Cody's listening. Cody, we were texting. He's in a group chat with Coach Medicis, myself, Tags, and now the stat man. And he goes, I don't want to listen to the Ohio State prediction. I got to stand firm. I think Ohio State's going to win the national championship. Now, I don't want them to, but I picked them, so I can't get away from them. If they play like they did against Tennessee, they're clicking on all cylinders. Like that was the offense that should have showed up against Michigan because they would have waxed Michigan. But as I said before, I'm not going to beat this into the ground. Ryan Day has a Michigan problem. It's that simple. They tighten up. His ass cheeks tighten up when he plays Michigan. And it showed. They played right into the hands of Michigan. And I'm not going to go back and break that game down because, again, like the Buckeye fans will say, well, we got a shot to win the national championship. What do you got a shot for? Don't matter. Does not matter to me one bit. Listen, I told my wife the other night, and she knows, she goes, I know you picked them back in August. Could we possibly see where Michigan won the national championship last year, and now we might get Ohio State to win the national championship this year? I think that'd be pretty cool as a Big Ten guy, a Michigan guy, to see Michigan, Ohio State go back-to-back years winning the national championship. Could it happen? Could be. I think a lot of people are going to overlook Oregon right now because Oregon had the bye week. And Cody, I know you're listening. I'm with you. I think the whole how they got seeded as the top seed, having to play the winner of Tennessee and Ohio State, is horrible. Horrible. They had the toughest draw of anybody out. Like Penn State's got the easiest draw. Oregon should be rewarded. That's why they should reseed this thing. at least, right? Reseed it. You need to give the number one seed in the country the easiest path to win a national championship. And in this case, Oregon has the toughest path. But you know what? It's like in college basketball. You got to go beat the best anyways. So if you're the best team in the country, a lot of people think that game against Ohio State's the national championship game. The winner of that game wins the national championship. That's what a lot of people are saying. And I can't deny that. So you're going to have to beat those teams anyways. Go beat them now, right? I mean, Oregon's one of the best offense in the country, one of the best rosters in the country. The last time Oregon and Ohio State played, it came right down to the wire. Ohio State had the ball late in the game. Uh, Will Howard had the mental hiccup where he slid, the clock ran out. They were going down to kick a game-winning field goal, but it didn't happen. Oregon survives in Oregon. So you can't knock them for that. But that game this past week, what Ohio State did in Columbus, and here's the other thing, and I'm going to kind of get all over the place here because this is things pop up in my notes here that I'm struggling to see because I got the shades on, but I got to wear my gear tonight, is how great was it to see the home field? Like, how great was it to see the shoe was packed, 20 degrees at kick. They were freezing. You saw the whiteout at Penn State at noon was phenomenal. Like, SMU hadn't seen anything like that the whole entire season. So that was really cool. And even the Texas game. I thought the Texas Clemson game, the home field advantage for all these teams, Notre Dame included, like, I say you just keep this home field throughout. And if you want to play the semifinal in the finals at one of these big bowl games, okay. But how great was it for college football at these home stadiums? Like 100,000 people. And, the home field advantage held serve. And I know maybe the matchups, like, again, SMU maybe didn't belong in. Penn State's been good. Penn State had the hiccup against Ohio State where they 3-4 times inside the 5-yard line got stopped. They might have a chance, could have beaten Ohio State. Notre Dame, Indiana, the first time those teams have played in, I think, since 19, I don't know what they said, 51 or something crazy. Texas and Clemson, I mean, Clemson hung on for a little bit. They couldn't stop Texas. Quinn Ewers played pretty good. I was a little surprised to see Indiana's game plan against Notre Dame. I thought they looked horrendous. I know the score was 27-17. That game was 27-3 with like 5 minutes to go in the game. They scored. They got an onside kick, scored again. I said this early in the year, too. I think Notre Dame's is being overlooked. And again, I'm a Michigan fan. So as a Michigan fan, there's two teams you hate. Well, I should say three teams. Michigan State, Notre Dame, and Ohio State. But if you were to ask me, Rocky, as a Michigan fan in order, who don't you like? To me, it's Ohio State and then Notre Dame. Like, those are the two I can't stand. Michigan's kind of owned the Michigan State rivalry for a while. So that's, to me, I know a lot of the interstate people would say Michigan State's the game. So I don't know. I really don't like Notre Dame, and especially Marcus Freeman being a Buckeye. But I got to tell you, I like Marcus Freeman. I love Marcus Freeman. He's a young coach. Seems like his kids play hard for him. The knock over the years when Brian Kelly was there was, Notre Dame doesn't have the speed on the outsides. I think that's kind of changing a little bit. I mean, I think they do have speed on the outsides. They're physical up front. And as I think if any coach and any analyst in college football or even in the NFL, if you can say the team that dominates the trenches and can run the football can win a national championship. And when you look at these teams, like Notre Dame ran the ball well against Indiana, Penn State defense and, running the football. You look at Ohio State, they were pretty well balanced. Two really good backs in Jenkins and Travion Henderson, and, that wide receiving core that's probably the best wide receiver core in the country. And then you watch Texas. Texas ran the football. So I think the team that's the most physical, and then we haven't talked about Georgia yet, and I'll get into some of the games, next week. But I'm a little surprised the way Indiana's game plan I thought was terrible. And the knock was, Indiana's had the number one rush defense in the country. They were physical up front. Notre Dame exposed them. Notre Dame ran the football. I don't know what Indiana's game plan was offensively. I know Signetti ran his mouth and did all that talking and said, "Oh, we don't just beat top 25 teams. We beat the shit out of top." They ain't beat any top 25 teams. So I don't know what he was talking about. And I go back to when Signetti got the job. He did an interview, and this was during the season. I think it was before the Ohio State game. He said, when the job came open at Indiana, my wife and I sat back and we looked at the schedule and said, we can win 10 games there. And I think this is fascinating to listen to because it's Indiana, number one, who, people would say it's a basketball school, which I don't know. Basketball has been struggling since Bobby Knight, God rest his soul, passed away. And to me, I don't think they've been very good. But you can say, okay, Indiana's a basketball school. But when you looked at that schedule that Indiana had this year, and I don't have it up, I talked about it last week, it was a really, really, really weak schedule. And that was the knock on Indiana this year was, how do you put Indiana in over South Carolina or Ole Miss or Alabama, who play a really tough schedule? And Indiana's toughest game was to Ohio State, which they got destroyed. They shouldn't have beat Michigan, and Michigan wasn't very good. And you're going to put them in the playoff. But if you're Kurt Signetti, like he talked himself into a schedule, leaving JMU, or I think JMU is a pretty good job now. And Bob Chesney, credit to him, a former Patriot League guy at Holy Cross, had a great year at James Madison. They won their first bowl game this year. And I think he's going to be an up and coming young coach. So I think JMU is a really good job. But Signetti looks at the schedule and says, we can win 10 games there or better. And they did. So what happens with him? He just talked himself into, and he landed a long-term multi-million dollar deal at Indiana. I don't know how they'll be next year. I think I looked at their schedule. Their schedule doesn't look too hard again. So probably maybe wins 8 or 9 games. But I feel like Tom Allen did it before, where Indiana was like really good for 2 years and then they were just god awful and he got fired and Indiana went downhill again. So credit Kurt Signetti. But I want to go back to the Notre Dame piece. Is I think the job that Marcus Freeman has done since he has been the head coach here, and I remember when he got the job, his players went nuts. He's a likable coach, recruits really well. They're physical up front. They can run the football. And they took a shot on Riley Leonard. They could have went and got Will Howard. They went and got Riley Leonard, who struggled, I think, at the beginning of the year. He's a really good runner. And people are saying, well, if Notre Dame's behind, Notre Dame can't throw it 30, 40 times a game. I don't know if they need to. That's the thing. I don't know if they're going to need to because they can run the football. They play really good defense. I think Riley Leonard reminds me of Drew Aller at Penn State. Because think about what people say about Penn State. They run the ball, they play really good defense, and you hope the quarterback can make some plays with his feet. And at times, if he's got to make some throws, make some throws. I think you can say the same thing about Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame's got a really good shot to play for a national championship. I really do. Penn State, that defense got off to a really good start. They had the 2 pick sixes. SMU was awful. Doesn't take anything away from the season that SMU had. I think they had a great season. I think they belonged in the playoff. I will say that. You can't penalize SMU for getting to the ACC championship and losing. You cannot penalize. And the committee at one point on a Saturday said, we are not going to penalize teams for getting to the conference championship games and losing because Lane Kiffin said, he said, there's going to be coaches that don't even want to play in the game because if you lose, you're out. If you don't play in one, like Indiana didn't play in one, they got to sit back and basically just wait to hear their name. Tennessee was another one of those teams, right? So I think Penn State game, that game was over quickly. The Ohio State game, I think Ryan Day, Chip Kelly had a fantastic game plan. They executed all over the field. Defensively, they played really well. Tennessee they were down 21-0 before the game even started. Texas, I don't think anybody thought Clemson was going to beat Texas. Ewers played okay. They ran the football a little bit. Clemson just couldn't stop Texas. Cade Klubnik was a stud for Clemson. I don't know if I thought I saw something on Twitter, but you got all these fake accounts. I thought I saw something on Twitter where they said he might be entering the transfer portal. I don't see that. I did see Clemson picked up a couple guys in the transfer portal, so that's another thing. All right, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about those games. I want to get into some of the games coming up, and I'm not going to go crazy with them. I'll give you my predictions here in a bit. The Fiesta Bowl. So this is a 7:30 game on New Year's Eve. Penn State, Boise State. I don't really know what to expect from Boise State because we do know that Ashton Genty is going to run the football, and they're going to run it until they cannot run it anymore. And here's a quick note on this. Genty's carried the ball 344 times. Think about that. 344 times. I think that stat line is absolutely crazy because the next guy, the highest carries behind Genty on Boise State is like 94 carries, which is crazy in my eyes. Now, Genty's only 132 yards away from breaking Barry Sanders' all-time rushing record, which he'll probably do. But then again, Penn State's run defense is sixth in the country. Penn State's only given up just about 100 yards a game, a little over 100 yards a game. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Boise State's defense, not the greatest. They give up 360 to 370 yards a game. But here's the stat line for Boise State's defense. Of the 372 yards a game they give up, 246 are through the air. So what's that mean? I don't know. Maybe it's a big game setting up Penn State for Drew Aller to have a really big game. I mean, Penn State's only got 2 losses, guys, by a combined 15 points. Ohio State and Oregon, who they lost to, combined, they lost by 15 points. And I'll tell you, I know Oregon beat them. Penn State really proved to me in that game. They went toe-to-toe with Oregon. They just couldn't stop them. They just couldn't stop them at all. And I thought the interception late in the game by Aller was a horrible, horrible throw. But Penn State proved to me that when Aller can use his legs, that Oregon struggled with, that Oregon defense didn't look like it has all year. The Penn State found ways to score and move the ball against the Ducks. And the Ducks are really good up front, really good all around. But Penn State proved to me something. If they can mix it up a little bit, now the thing is with Penn State, they don't have any weapons outside of Tyler Warren on the outside, the tight end, who's 92 catches. And here's another crazy stat. You ready for this? Tyler Warren is the tight end he won the award for the best tight end in the country. 92 catches he's got for over 1,000 yards. Harrison Wallace is the receiver, 43 catches. That's the next highest amount of catches on Penn State is Harrison Wallace with 43. Now, where I think they're going to be explosive at, they got 2 good backs. They got Nick Singleton and Katron Allen, who both rushed for close to 900 yards together combined. And I think Drew Aller's going to have to make some throws, for Penn State to win this game. But again, I think it's a really good matchup. And I think at one of my shows is that they were showing the playoff bracket, what could be. And I said, Penn State or Ohio State, Oregon are all really bad matchups for Boise State. Why? Because they're really good against the run. I do not think they are going to pound Genty 30, 40 times in this game and think they're going to run. He's going to run for 200-300 yards and they're going to beat Penn State. I will be shell-shocked if it happens. Could it happen? I guess, right? I guess it could happen, but I don't see it happen. I think Maddox Madsen, the quarterback's going to have to make some throws. He's been okay. He hasn't really turned it over much. 3 interceptions all year, 22 touchdowns. He completes 60% of his balls. But they rely on that play action pass. When you hammer a guy 30 to 40 times a game and you're running the ball if they're on like 2nd and 6, if they're 3-4 yards a carry, it could be a long day for Penn State. If they can keep Penn State off the field, I think Boise State's got a shot. But again, I think it's going to be really, really tough for Boise State to pound the rock that many times. But, they did it earlier in the year against Oregon, Boise State. So we'll see. We'll see what happens in that game. I'll pick it at the end. So the next one, I don't know. These are all big lines again. These are all really, really big lines. This Texas and Arizona game, I don't know if, I don't know. I think Arizona is the fun story with Cam Scatterbu, the back, who's a really good back. He's rushed for 1,500 yards, but he's another one. Like he's got 263 carries. The quarterback, Sam Levitt's next with 97 carries. So I don't know. I mean, there's Kenny Dillingham. Tip your hat to him, the youngest coach in the country. I think he's like 32 or 34. I think he might even be he might even be younger than that. I don't know, 32 maybe. I'd have to look. But anyways, you know, I don't think anybody's given Arizona State a chance. They're a 2-touchdown dog. And I think, again, as I've said this the entire year, and I'm going to continue to say this, at some point in time, Quinn Ewers is going to cost Texas a big win and possibly from winning a national championship. And I keep hearing there's a Big Ten team out there, and Cody's going to smile when I say this, and he knows this. There's a Big Ten team that's offered Quinn Ewers $4 million next year to transfer. Well, who the hell do you think it is? You think it's Ohio State for Ewers to go back to Ohio State where he left? I don't see that happening, but money talks. It's Oregon. Oregon buys a quarterback every year, rents them for a year. They're really good. I'm not sure Ewers is the right fit in that offense, but maybe he is because they like to dip and dunk and throw those screens and all that. So maybe it is. But that was all over the news saying there's already a team that's offered him $4 million because Texas has already said next year Archie Mann is the guy. There's been NFL scouts that have said that Quinn Ewers would benefit from another year in college football. He's not ready for the NFL yet. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I still say, and I'm going to stand by it, I think he makes a huge mistake at some point in this season. Maybe it's this week, maybe it's the next week, or maybe it's a national championship game that's going to cost Texas from winning the national championship. I still don't know why Steve Sarkisian don't give the ball to Arch Manning. I just don't see why he does it. I think Arch gives him the best chance to win as a runner, passer, everything. So we'll see what happens with Texas. I mean, Ewers has been okay. He's turned it over a lot the last 2 to 3 weeks. He's got 10 interceptions on the season. They ran the ball. Quintravion Wesner, the tailback, they ran the ball really good against Clemson. I thought Clemson's front fours is solid. Not great, but I think they're solid. So they ran the football, and we know what Arizona State's going to do. They're going to try to pound Cam Scatterbu. Sam Levitt, the freshman quarterback, has been sensational for Arizona State. 2,600 yards, 24 touchdowns, only 5 picks on the season as a true freshman. Think about that for Kenny Dillingham, a true freshman under center for him. And here's some interesting stats. I'm not really a big stat guy, but I want to just go through some of these. So Texas averages 33.9 points a game, and Arizona State averages 33.1. Pretty close. Texas, one of the best defenses in the country. They're only giving up 13 points a game. Arizona State's giving up 21 a game. So we'll see if Arizona State's high-powered offense can put up points against Texas. And I don't know, maybe they hang around. This is the Peach Bowl. This one's New Year's Day at 1 o'clock. We'll see. But again, Texas, they're double-digit favorites against Clemson, double-digit favorites against Arizona State. So again, the path for Texas, pretty easy as a 5 seed. Let that sink in, as a 5 seed. So the other game, Ohio State and Oregon. To me, again, I've said this early in the program, I think the winner of this game wins the national championship. Now, I don't know, Oregon to go 16-0, it hasn't happened since Michigan last year went 13 or 14-0. So I don't know, maybe. Oregon's only, I was going to say Oregon is. Ohio State's a 2.5-point favorite in this game. Remember, they played in Oregon the first time. Will Howard went down with not much time left. Big run, slid down, clock ran out. Could have set up a game-winning field goal for the Buckeyes, who right now, I don't have a lot of faith in Ohio State's kicker. I'll say that. So if this game comes down to a field goal game, my money would go on Oregon in this. So this will be, this is a rematch, and it's tough to beat a team twice. I think Ohio State's skilled guys, these two rosters match up. These are two of the best rosters in college football, skilled guys. Ohio State may have the best receiving core in the country, And then you probably would say, you could say Oregon's 1A. So Ohio State 1, Oregon 1A. Running backs, quarterbacks, I'd give the edge to Oregon at the quarterback spot. I'm still not sold on Will Howard. I think Will Howard last week played with a chip on his shoulder and just came out and he was like, all right, screw the Michigan game. I know we lost that game, but we're going to come out. It's a new season for us. They looked energized. The game plan looked different. They looked energized. They looked up. They looked really tight and nervous against Michigan. And Michigan played loose. They didn't have anything to lose. Nobody thought as like a 28-point underdog, Michigan had any chance to beat Ohio State, including myself. But that's why you play the game. But when you watch Ohio State last week, they looked nothing like the team that went in and lost to Michigan. So I think the game plan was better by Chip Kelly. They attacked downfield, the vertical passing game. They ran the football. The defense was really good. So I think talent-wise, these two teams might be two of the best rosters in the country. Now, again, Ohio State was down 2 starters on the O-line against Tennessee. They found a way against Tennessee, who, again, Tennessee's front. That was one of the best fronts in college football, was Tennessee. And people are going to say, well, the SEC wasn't as good. I mean, we got to stop with that. When somebody wins, you got to give them some credit. And I'm going to give all the credit in the world to Ohio State, saying I thought the game plan was good on both sides. Defensively, the defense has played well all season. This offense is really talented. Will Howard just can't screw it up. But he can do that. We have seen him screw it up at times. Now, on the other side with Oregon, Dylan Gabriel's got an FBS record. He's got 187 career touchdowns. I feel like he's been in college for like 8 years. I don't know how many years he's been in college, but I feel like he's been there for 8 years. Oregon's just the second team since 2000 to beat Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan in the same year. And this is the first year with Dan Lanning coming into the Big Ten. And Oregon ain't going away. They got a lot of guys coming in already with the portal. They recruit well. Oregon is not going anywhere. And I know people are going to say, well, if Kalen DeBoer gets fired at Alabama, then Dan Lanning should be the guy. Lanning turned it down when Kalen DeBoer got the job. I'm really not. I know Bama's the sexy name in the program. But Dan Lanning, I mean, he's got all the money in the world at Oregon. Phil Knight's there, for Christ's sake. Why would he want to leave Oregon? Now you're in the Big Ten. Money's not a problem. But if you look at this too, is Oregon's got 3 wins against teams in the college football playoff. But they've given up 30 points. The defense has not looked like the defense it has throughout the season. They struggled against Penn State. They gave up the points against Ohio State. They've had the week off now, the long layover, 2 weeks off, I think, right? And Ohio State's just coming off a week where they played and looked really good. So now they're on a game week preparation. Does the long layover hurt Oregon that was clicking on all cylinders, or does it help Oregon, the rest players, get them healthy, more time to prepare for Ohio State? I mean, you can go through the pros and cons however you want. You can slice and dice this thing any way you want. It's like the NFL. Do you rest guys? What's Kansas City? Kansas City already locked the 1 seed up in the AFC. You going to rest Mahomes and Kelsey and all those guys now and risk them getting hurt for the playoffs? Or, do you play them and keep that momentum going? They're starting to get healthy again at the right time. I don't know what the answer is, but you can slice and dice it, and you can do pros and cons for both sides of that. Now, Oregon should be full strength. I believe they're going to get Jordan Birch back. Tez Johnson, I think they're both going to play against Ohio State. I believe they're both going to play. Dylan Gabriel was a Heisman finalist. I don't think he should have been there. I think Shedeur Sanders was better than him, put up better numbers. I think Gabriel went because Oregon was in the college football playoff. I can see that. But numbers-wise, he's thrown for 3,500 yards. You can't take that away from him. He's got 28 touchdowns. He's thrown 6 picks. And I think for me, the one thing that people that may watch Oregon and forget, because you got the Gabriels, you got Tez Johnson, you got all those skill guys. I think the game against Ohio State's going to come down to, can Jordan James run the football against Ohio State's front? And James is over 1,200 yards rushing. He's got 15 touchdowns. Can they run the football against Ohio State? Now, you're going to probably see the bubble screens, the quick screens, maybe they'll throw it to the back out of the backfield. Those are like run plays. Even in high school, that they're really a run play. I can see Oregon doing it. That's a lot of Dan Lanning's game on offense is let's get it to the skill kids. Let's make the skill kids miss. Let's put pressure on the defense where Ohio State's going to have to tackle well in space. And I think Oregon's going to have to do the same thing. Tackle well in space because there's going to be athletes all over the field. Here's some stats. And again, I thought this was really crazy when I broke this down. Ohio State and Oregon, the first time they played, Ohio State had 18 first downs, Oregon had 22. Total yards, Ohio State 467, Oregon 496. Really close, right? Total plays, Ohio State ran 68, Oregon ran 65. Rushing yards, I'm telling you, this is really crazy. Rushing yards, Ohio State had 141, Oregon had 155. And then passing yards, Ohio State 326, Oregon 341. So how crazy is that when you actually break those numbers down? I think it's going to be a really good game. I'll pick it here in a minute. And then the last game, the Sugar Bowl. This one's the night game. This is probably the other best game. This could be the best game. We don't know. I would say the Ohio State-Oregon game is the best game of these playoffs right now, and most people would probably agree with this. I think this game's got a chance to be really special, too. And this is the night game on New Year's Day, so I'll be front and center for this game. Georgia right now is a 2-point favorite over Notre Dame. And, again, this is going to come down to, again, can Notre Dame run the football? Carson Beck out for the playoffs. So they're going to go with Gunnar Stockton, the sophomore quarterback, who, I don't know, we don't know a lot about him. But when you got the defense that Georgia's got and you got Kirby Smart, maybe he's just got to manage the game and not make the big turnover and don't screw it up, right? Like Will Howard, like get the ball to your playmakers. I think you're going to see Georgia try to run the football a little bit with ETN and Frazier. I think ETN's back. So I think we'll see Georgia pound the ball a little bit. And then, again, you're putting the ball in the hands of a sophomore quarterback who really hasn't taken a lot of snaps for Georgia. Even if Carson Beck was playing this game, I would be leaning Notre Dame. And again, guys, I am not a Notre Dame fan, but I'll tell you what, this Notre Dame team, Notre Dame can win the national championship. There is not one doubt in my mind that they can't win this whole thing. Now, there's also not a doubt in my mind that we could see a defense carry a team to the national championship like Georgia. And again, if Notre Dame gets behind a couple scores, the question is going to still be, can Riley Leonard throw the football and come back and win a game for Notre Dame? But if they're running the football, they're playing really good defense, they're really good on special teams. Jeremiah Love, the tailback's as good as anybody in college football. Riley Leonard's got 135 carries. Love's got 142. Your quarterback is 7 carries away from leading the team in carries. And he's got 751 yards rushing, and Love's got over 1,000. So this is a team that likes to run the football, whether it's with Love, whether it's Leonard in the shotgun, and then it's let's play action pass and let's play really good defense. Like that's Notre Dame style. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Could they score 30, 40 points? I don't know. I don't know. I think Marcus Freeman's done a really good job with Riley Leonard in developing him along the way. People are going to still go back and say, oh, they lost to NIU. I know they did. Notre Dame every year has that one game where they get beat to some bum team. And I mean, NIU is still a bowl team. They won their bowl game the other night. But it's still Notre Dame. You shouldn't lose to NIU. But then again, Alabama shouldn't have got hammered to a 6-6 Oklahoma. Ole Miss shouldn't have lost to a 4-7 Kentucky. So there's always those losses, right? Ohio State should have never lost to Michigan, but they did. So I'm not looking at that game anymore because I think Notre Dame has gotten better every week. And I think it's what have you done for me lately, right? Lose early, win late. The committee likes that. If you lose late, the committee doesn't like that. It's like college basketball. If you're playing well late in the year, it's great going into the tournament. If you lose late in the year, the committee may look at you. So what's Georgia going to do? Again, the $1 million question is, can Gunnar Stockton win a game for Georgia on their? This will be the biggest game he's played in for them. So we'll see. I think it'll be a really good game. But again, I think Notre Dame's got a really shot to win the whole thing. So, all right, I'm going to get to predictions here, and then I'm going to wrap this thing up. And I want to make sure I wish today was actually my son's 13th birthday, so I want to say happy birthday to my son Aiden if he's listening. We just came back from my mom and dad's house. We had cake and ice cream up there for him for his birthday, and we were up there for the holiday. So Merry Christmas to everybody. Hopefully everybody had a nice Christmas. I know we did here. So let me get into these predictions. So the first one, I'm going to just start kind of how I went down the line the first time. And if you followed Chalk Talk over the last month or so, and you take my bets, and I should probably play my own bets, but I don't. I've been pretty good. So I'm going to give you these picks here. Penn State, Boise State. I'm going to take Penn State in this game. I think the 10.5. I think it's a lot of points, but I think it's just a bad matchup. And I think it's like college basketball. Like these games are about matchups. This is not a good matchup for Boise State. If somebody had to ask me what's the over-under on Ashton Genty, if over 100 yards or under, what would I take? I'm going to take the under. I think Penn State keeps him under 100 yards. I think you're going to see 8 and 9 men in the box. I think Penn State's going to say, we have better athletes on the outside than you do. If you're going to beat us, you better throw the football because there's no way you're going to pound the Heisman finalist 30, 40 times and just think he's going to rush for 200 yards or better to beat us. Now, could it happen? It could happen, and I'll be surprised if it does. But give me Penn State. I'll lay the 10.5 against Boise State. All right, the next one, the Peach Bowl, Texas and Arizona State. So this is another one. This is a big line. Nobody's going to give Arizona State a chance to win this game. I'm not either. I like Texas, but I'm going to say this. I would bet Arizona State getting 14. But I think Texas wins this game. I think Texas is just too much. I think they got too much all around on the field. They're more talented. I think Arizona State's going to score. But I think Arizona State's good. Will try to run Cam Scatterbull right out of the gate. I think Texas, again, defensively up front, one of the best front fours in college football. I just don't think they're going to be able to run it. If they get one-dimensional, I think it favors Texas. If Quinn Ewers plays mistake-free football, this Texas team is the best team in college football. If he doesn't play, or if he plays mistake-free football, I think Texas is as talented as any team in college football. I'm going to go Texas, but I would bet Arizona State plus 14. Well, you know where I'm going with this one. I got to stick with my pick. I'm going to pick Ohio State. I would take Ohio State, and I would lay the 2.5. I think they beat Ohio State, or I think they beat Oregon by 7 or more. I think it's a touchdown or better game against Oregon. I just think the matchup for Oregon, the long layover, the seating and everything was horrendous for Oregon. But at the same time, I'm not going to be surprised if Oregon beats Ohio State and goes on and wins the national championship. The winner of this game, in my eyes, is probably your national champ. But I guess we'll see matchups as this thing progresses and see where this thing leads. I would take Ohio State, and I'll lay the 2.5 to the Ducks. And then last but not least, the Sugar Bowl, Notre Dame, Georgia. I'm going to pick Notre Dame. I've been on Notre Dame the last 2 to 3 weeks, and I'm going to stay on the Notre Dame train. I would take Notre Dame, and I would lay the -2 in this game. I think Georgia will fall in this game, and I think Notre Dame will march on to the semifinals. So you got my picks. I like Penn State, but I like Penn State, and I like Penn State given the 10.5. I like Texas to win, but I like Arizona State getting plus 14. I like Ohio State given the 2.5 to Oregon. I think they're going to beat them by 7 or more. And then I do like Notre Dame over Georgia. And Georgia right now is a 2-point favorite against the Fighting Irish. So you got my picks. You got everything there on Chalk Talk. I hope everybody enjoyed it tonight. I hope everybody had a very nice holiday. I'll let you know the schedule for next week after these games happen next week. Probably look to see the following week, um, where I'll probably do another show or two leading up to the national championship game. So I'll keep everybody posted. Again, if you watch me on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. You can subscribe to me on any of the social media platforms: Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter. Tonight on TikTok for the first time. And then again, I'm on Apple Podcast, Apple Music, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more. So you can follow me on any of those sites. All right, on behalf of myself tonight and Chalk Talk tonight here on the Rock Pile, have a safe weekend. And again, Merry Christmas. And I'll talk to you guys again soon here on Chalk Talk. Have a good evening, everybody.